Welcome to Bite Size, a series where I take a short look at a short game. The last one ran a bit long, so let's get moving. Super Mario Land is probably one of the strangest titles in the whole series, developed not by Nintendo EAD and Shigeru Miyamoto, but by Nintendo R&D 1 and headed by Gunpei Yokoi. The game released as a Game Boy launch title, right after SMB3 in Japan and just before in the West. It sees Mario traveling Sarasa Land, not the Mushroom Kingdom, in order to save Princess Daisy, not Princess Peach or Toadstool, who's been kidnapped by Tatanga, not Bowser. It's also quite short, featuring only 4 worlds, 3 levels each, and 2 of these levels are scrolling shoot-'em-up levels. And this being their first attempt to translate Mario onto a handheld, they tried making all the sprites smaller to fit on screen, giving both the characters and the worlds a unique look. Before going further, I want to point out that someone who goes by toruzz has given this game new life with Super Mario Land DX, giving it a thorough Game Boy Color treatment in addition to some quality of life extras. As a bonus to introducing color, he also included the option to play with newly designed sprites that more accurately represent the concept art. I prefer the original sprites, except for Princess Daisy, who looks very detailed for 8-bit, but I'll use footage from both so you can form your own opinion. There's also an options menu to switch from normal to hard mode, and toruzz added in a Luigi mode with slightly modified physics. So now, let's look at the gameplay. On the positive side, Mario maintains his hop and bop controls. Hold B to run, press A to jump, land on enemies to dispatch them. He can find super mushrooms to gain an extra hit point, and super ball flowers to gain a projectile attack. These bounce off surfaces and collect coins until they hit an enemy. But pay attention because some enemies take 2 hits to down. He can also collect hearts for a 1-up and power stars for brief invincibility, though the jingle may catch you off guard. Because everything is so small and skinny, it takes time to get used to jumping on enemies the way you would in any of the other games, which can be frustrating to start. The physics are also a little strange, and throw on top of that a decent dose of slowdown, and you learn to take things a little slower than you might in other Mario games. The Game Boy version especially gave me grief this time around. I was dying left and right, particularly in Worlds 3 and 4. But I realized during subsequent playthroughs that I wasn't checking enough blocks to maintain my power-ups and 1-ups, nor was I checking pipes for coin rooms to help bolster my lives counter. And some of my platforming woes melted away with the repetition. It works out because the game's short length is pretty conducive to multiple playthroughs. Let's look through some of the game's 4 worlds and point out some highlights. World 1 is the Birabuto Kingdom, heavily inspired by ancient Egypt. 1-1, which features pyramids prominently in the background, is a very basic jaunt from left to right, introducing some Goombas, the new bombshell Koopas which explode after getting stomped, and flies that behave like they do in the arcade Mario Bros. You even catch a glimpse of a Sphinx right before reaching the Gold Tower, which ends the first 2 levels in each world. The bottom door just leads to the next level, but making it through the top door brings you to a bonus game first, where you can win a Super Ball flower or some extra lives. Reaching the top door involves a little platforming challenge that is extremely satisfying to pull off, especially later in the game. 1-2 takes place on treetops of all places, and sees the only appearance of these little bees that throw arrows down at you. You can stomp them, but bouncing super balls up at them is much more effective. 1-3 brings you inside a pyramid where hieroglyphs abound. Piranha plants make their first of many appearances, as do the fireball spouting sphinx-like creatures. The world boss is King Totemesu, essentially a mobile sphinx, that behaves like a Super Mario Bros. 1 boss fight where you can destroy the bridge beneath him or shoot him with super balls. You learn this Daisy is a fake and need to continue to the next kingdom. Defeating a world boss always brings you to the bonus game, which is quite convenient. World 2 is the Muda Kingdom, an aquatic world based on the Bermuda Triangle. In 2-1 and 2-2, Mario appears to beam down from a UFO as the level starts, and UFOs can be found in the background of 2-3. Also, 2-1 and 2-2 have the greatest song in the whole game. I don't really know why, but I love it. In 2-1, you meet these undead fish that jump up at you, and some seahorses that jump up to shoot fireballs at you. 2-2 has more seahorses and these strange robot enemies that send their heads at you. This is also the first gold tower that I consistently struggle to climb. 2-3 is the first shoot 'em up stage. Mario pilots a submarine called the Marine Pop which can shoot torpedoes. The power-up system remains, and mushrooms and power stars can be found by shooting blocks. In addition to the undead fish and seahorses, there are regular fish that swim at you, and stationary octopuses that shoot 2 fireballs at you when shot down. The level ends with the boss Dragon Zamasu, which can be shot down or avoided by pressing the switch. But Daisy is in another kingdom. This and the other shoot-'em-up stage are a fun change of pace that, even in such a short game, keep the experience fresh. World 3 is where the game gets harder. Easton Kingdom is inspired by Easter Island, featuring moai heads all over the place, especially in 3-1. Here you meet up with hopping heads, running heads, and bullet bills that shoot from launchers that rise up out of pipes. And the second half of the level requires you to ride rocks that bounce over spikes to make it to the gold tower. 3-2 takes place in a spider-infested cave. Some spiders descend from the ceiling, and some hop towards you. You'll also want to watch for falling stalactites. My advice in this section is to learn where the power-ups are hidden and don't forget to grab them when you die for the 5th time. The level ends with another rock riding sequence. 3-3 brings you back out into the open. There's a hidden room in this pipe that I strongly recommend visiting. Not only is it chock full of coins, but it has a power-up as well. There's a 1-up soon after, and this is all very good because this one platforming segment with the walls and the moving platforms probably killed me more than anything else in the entire game. I'm not entirely sure why, it isn't actually that complicated, but it just chewed through my lives, especially in my first run. Soon after that is the world boss, Hioihoi, a head that throws rocks at you. You're supposed to jump from rock to rock to get over him, but I can never figure out the timing, so I just damage boost through since there's a mushroom right before him. World 4 is the Chai Kingdom, based on the mythical age of feudal China. 4-1 takes place in a bamboo forest with some constricted and tricky platforming, and these hopping scarecrow enemies. If you can manage the enemies, it should be less challenging than 3-1. 4-2 obstructs you with these pollen-spitting plants, which you can jump on, and these fireball-spitting snakes. There are some roto-discs in the second half of the level as well. For the final platforming level, it's still not as difficult as World 3. The final level, 4-3, is the other shoot-'em-up level, this time with Mario flying the Sky Pop plane, which can shoot missiles. It works the same as the Marine Pop, but this time you have chickens flying at you and enemy planes shooting rockets back at you. At the end, you fight the world boss, Bioquinton, who is a cloud that sends chickens at you. And then you fight Tatanga, piloting his spaceship, the Pagosu. He fires cannonballs that split into 3 bullets, but if you know what you're doing, he's not very tough. This time Mario saves the real Daisy, and they take a ride together in a spaceship as the credits scroll. But if you're eager for more, there is hard mode to try out. Either unlocked by starting a second quest in the original, or through the menu in the DX version, hard mode sees you running through the same levels just with more enemies. Some enemies make appearances in different levels as well, like the Sphinx in 1-1. Honestly though, the strategy isn't all that different. It's just more important to collect coins and hold on to power-ups as long as possible. I found advancing a little slower gave me more time to adjust when multiple enemies spawned in, although at other times if you move fast enough you can thread your way through them before they become a threat. Worth your while? And exclusive to the DX mode, we have a bonus playable character. Well, sort of. Usually I'd say a character needs to be unlocked to fall under the BPC category, and Luigi's available from the start in DX, but to be fair, you had to go out of your way to patch the ROM, so that's pretty close to unlocking. So he counts, but just barely. And his physics are only slightly altered from Mario, and I don't like it. The tiles are so small that Luigi's slippery controls are just a step too far. Platforming that is reliably doable in Mario's campaign is rage-inducing as Luigi. You can't afford to slip and slide on these tiny platforms. So I don't recommend trying this mode, but I don't know, maybe you're built to sterner stuff. And that's it, that's Super Mario Land DX. Ultimately it feels like a proof of concept, like, yep, we can make a small-scale Mario game on handheld, it is feasible. Even so, I find that once I get past the learning curve, it is an enjoyable little romp through Sarasa Land, and it helps to have the shoot-'em-up levels break up the pace. And some cool trivia, the track that plays in the bonus game is the song JonTron used in his final top 10 video on Necessary Sequels.
QED, quit everything and make Star Fox 64 too, you dumbo.
Number 7.
I knew I recognized that from somewhere. And this DX mod is a massive win for fans of the original, so if you haven't already, I'd give it a try. Let me know how it goes or recommend another bite-sized game. Thanks again for checking this out, and I hope to catch you in the next one.